Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about some more of these verbal reasoning kind of slow walkthroughs, since you guys have been enjoying them and I hope you've been finding them useful. So we're going to be continuing on. So this is the first set of questions from the official Ucat question bank, and I'm just going to be trying to explain my thought process behind how I will be doing these questions. So I'll be completely honest, I definitely would skip this passage set because it's quite chunky, and I think that, yeah, just off the bat, it just doesn't really look that appealing to me. So I would definitely skip it first of all. But of course, we're going to have to do it, so let's do it. So here, I would read the first line. So isn't it peculiar how coincidences occur in life? The writer believes that there are rational explanations for all coincidences. So let's keep reading until we find something to do with that idea. Actually, now that I think about it, I probably wouldn't do this question because this is quite like a general statement about the writer. So it might be something that you can kind of elucidate from having to read the whole passage. So whilst this doesn't necessarily say which of the following does the writer agree with or whatever, I think that's one of those questions. So actually I'm going to skip it and probably go into this one. So the evidence in the passage implies coincidences are more likely to happen with relatives. So let's keep reading. Just the other week I rang a cousin with whom I had not been in contact for several years. When he picked up the phone he couldn't believe it. His brother's wife was staying with him and they had literally within the last hour been wondering how I was and whether I would make it to Ireland to visit them. It makes you feel this sort of thing happens too often to be pure chance. Many years ago I was crossing Turkey by train, only to find a student colleague in the next carriage. Neither of us had any inkling of our respective summer travel plans. Another incredible coincidence occurred when my cousin Jack, who lives in Bermuda, visited England. While he was staying with us, we went for a night out with several neighbours. One of them exclaimed, "Jack, what are you doing here?" It turned out that our neighbour had spent 6 months recently in Bermuda and had got to know Jack well, but did not know he lived three doors away from Jack's cousin. It makes you wonder how these things happen. With a world population of 6 billion, it would seem unlikely that any two chosen at random would know each other. However, there is an unproven theory that one person is connected to any other person in the world by 6 or fewer stages of introduction, which increases the likelihood. Well, I'll be honest with you, I would have put can't tell here, and I would get the answer wrong because it says it's false. I probably would have put can't tell because, yes, it mentions a lot about relatives, but also it talks about a friend here as well. So their logic, if we have a quick read of this, it says examples of cousins are referred. Another example involves a student friend, and there's no indication of how likely these examples are, which is also why I kind of would have put can't tell. So I don't know. I feel like this answer should be can't tell, but fine. False. The answer. I would have got it wrong. Obviously, I want to be honest with you guys, and I want to show you exactly what I would have done and what I would have put. So C is genuinely what I would have put down here. Okay, let's keep going. From the evidence in the passage, routine behavior in daily life may explain apparently extraordinary coincidences. So I haven't read anything on that yet, so it's probably the last bit I'm going to go on to. Some people believe that these events are mysterious and without explanation. Others that these are quite unexceptional. How often do you hear someone say, "So and so phoned the other day"? It was odd that I was thinking about calling her myself, and just when I was going to phone, it rang and it was her. I believe it's possible that friends phone each other regularly, and that there is a pattern to their communication that they are unaware of. From the evidence in the passage, routine behavior in daily life may explain apparently extraordinary coincidences. So I would say that this is true because it says friends phone each other regularly and there's a pattern of communication that they're aware of. So it doesn't say it definitely does explain, it says it may explain. So I would put true here. Okay? Yeah, so it suggests it's in relation to telephone communication. A coincidence is an event which is determined by chance. So this is where using our own knowledge would be quite detrimental, because yes, you can use your own knowledge, but I don't really, having read exactly what coincidence was anywhere. It didn't really mention it at all. So for that reason, I would probably put can't tell, because I think they want you to put true because you know that, but it doesn't mention any definitions anywhere. All it says is it makes you feel this sort of thing happens too often to be pure chance, but that doesn't really. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so the writer believes there are rational explanations for all coincidences. So for this one, I'd probably argue true, because here it says it makes you feel this sort of thing happens too often to be pure chance. I remember reading here that friends phone each other regularly, and there's a pattern of their communication that they're unaware of. So these kind of ideas together kind of suggest that, you know what, there's something deeper going on. It's not, yes, it might appear like a coincidence, but there's probably something underneath the surface which makes it appear not so. Okay, so just something to have a think about, basically. Yeah. But I'll be honest, I really didn't like this passage. So yeah, I would have put can't tell here, but of course it was false. Okay, let's go to this one. So the opening statement denies the existence of free will because it asserts that. So This is a great question too because it tells me immediately what I'm looking for. Okay, and this one, so I have a quick read of it. It was for actions and predetermination, predestination, that kind of idea. And actually, remember, one of the things that I mentioned in my earlier videos is even if budget is long, I like it when it's split into smaller paragraphs. So I probably would do this one. Also, this question is quite nice. So, because it asserts that all actions are consequences of forces, all actions are essentially spontaneous, is a religious concept to explain why evil exists. Actions are either forced or spontaneous. So here, I would say that once again we can use our ideas of opposing things. So this is these two oppose. The answer is probably going to be one of these two. So therefore you can kind of rule out A and C, so you can kind of focus on these two. So it says either our actions are predetermined, in which case there's nothing we can do about them, or our actions are random, in which case there's nothing we can do about them. So therefore actions are either forced or spontaneous. So yeah, I'd say D is going to be the answer. And you can use that idea of the opposing contradiction idea here. So nature versus nurture is a debate on whether people's lives are determined by the state of the natural world. Actions are more rational if they're well fed. Actions depend on our upbringing or their genes. Genes govern behavior as genes natural, but nurture is not. So I'd say C is the answer. And here I'm 100% definitely using my own knowledge. And I think you can do that here. I think this is the kind of question that pertains to that. And this is what I mean. Like scientific passages are the ones that I like. Okay, they're the ones that I'm much more fond and familiar with. So I would 100% put C here. Okay, so according to the passage, which one of these shows that identical twins can be studied to show inheritance patterns? When reared apart, they show similar behavioral traits. They're genetically identical, so react in the same way to stimuli. When reared apart, they perform differently in IQ tests. When brought apart, they will share the same experiences. So D is probably going to be wrong, because I don't think that's true. Actually, yeah, because not necessarily. If I was to guess, I would guess this one, if anything. But let's keep going. Okay. Fatalistic statement is a modern adaptation of the apparent contradiction pointed out by the philosopher David Hume. So actually, probably one of these two, maybe, or one of A or B. C is probably not going to be wrong, right? Because I feel like the IQs are probably going to be quite similar, but of course it does depend on the environment. So this statement referred to the difference between deductive logic and inductive argument, extensively discussed by philosophers ever since. The statement, which appears to give the lie to free will, has come to the fore recently in the renewed debate of nature versus nurture. How much behavior is due to the environment and how much to heredity? It's now well understood that DNA contains a set of instructions telling cells to manufacture the proteins essential for life. So genes must have a role in the development activity of the brain. Studies of identical twins, okay, great, show that intelligence is very much inherited. Less well known is that behavior also seems to display a large degree of inheritability. So they're not going to perform differently on IQ tests. They're going to show similar behavioral traits. And actually, once again, these two are kind of contradictory ideas. So perhaps I could have once again guessed it was going to be one of A or C. Okay, so yeah, so A was the answer. So the argument of the passage indicates science has shown there's no such thing as free will. All actions may be predetermined but not predictable. All our actions are predictable and predetermined. Once again, contradiction. Probably going to be one of B or C. Intelligence is determined genetically. Behavior is learned from parents. So I think D, a lot of people will be tempted to say is true, but that's not what the argument of the passage is going to be. Does that make sense? So I think one of B or C, and out of B or C, I think B probably the one that makes the most sense, but let's keep going. So will criminals be able to claim I'm innocent, it was my genes that made me do it? No, they miss the point in that we are our genes plus everything else. Strangely, mathematical developments in chaos theory have shed new light on this. Mechanical systems, although deterministic, are also chaotic. In theory, their future can be exactly predicted. In practice, this is not possible. Small changes in the environment will lead eventually to huge changes in the system. So unified genes predetermine everything in theory. In actual fact, this is not so, as the environment they're in is so complex that they are subject to many influences. So I would say here, definitely B would be the answer. And you can see I've used quite a bit of contradiction and a lot of my own ideas here for this. But so, for example, the first question was dead nice. Yeah, sound question. Then for the second question, once again, I guess this one using my own knowledge. This one, a bit of contradiction, but I didn't recognize it immediately. I probably should have recognized it a little bit earlier. This one, definitely contradiction. Okay, and if you guys are unsure about these principles I'm talking about here, please do go and check out my long VR video. In it, I talk about all the kind of key ideas that have been mentioned beforehand. Okay, so I'd say that this is important, and you can definitely see that these are valuable and viable techniques that you can use, especially in verbal reasoning. Okay, cool. So I hope you guys found the video helpful. Please let me know how you guys are getting on, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you as always.